What's going on, everybody? My name is Shimpact, and we are going to be doing Week 3 Power Rankings. Let's get right into it. Number 10, I had Patty Trails. He had really good prep in this game. He had a Rock Polish Landers, which if the Glacier was weakened, he was going to be able to really be able to seal the game against it. Obviously, there's a Klefki with potential Magnet Rise, but if he also manages to kill that, or if it doesn't have Magnet Rise, or if he has a Balloon straight up, and he doesn't have Magnet Rise at all, then the Landers was going to be able to win the game. He had 2 Intimidate Pokemon, and Incineroar and Landers to be able to take on the Charizard. He had Ferrothorn with, obviously, you just bring Ferrothorns for hazards to be able to weaken the team, to be able to set up your Pokemon to be able to win in the late game. Ferrothorn obviously really helps out Alakazam, which is a huge threat in any format, and it really benefits Spikes greatly because Klefki is the main answer to Alakazam, and it takes the most damage from Spikes. It takes more damage from Spikes than Stealth Rock, I mean. So as soon as that gets a little bit weakened, Alakazam can potentially 2-hit kill that and be able to pick off Tup's team after that. But in this game, I feel like Patty did not really focus as much as he needed to. Similarly, in Week 1 against Gator, turn 1 he timed out and clicked Stealth Rock. In turn 2 he didn't realize, turn 1 and 2, he didn't realize that the Heatran had a Balloon, and it could have been very, very devastating for him if he got punished by it, but he didn't because Gator went out into Celebi. But in this week, he had a very, very good position set up where he had Intimidate on the Charizard. He had the Ferrothorn initially in on the Charizard, and I felt like he could easily just set up a Leech Seed on the Charizard and be able to just let him knock out the Ferrothorn and just take a bunch of recoil from the initial Leech Seed and then Flare Blitz and Iron Barbs after that. And with 2 Intimidators, he would have been able to take on the Charizard decently well. He could have pivoted out from Incineroar into Charizard, or into Incineroar into Landorus. And with 2 Intimidates after he did set up the initial Dragon Dance with Leech Seed up, then he would have been able to take on the hit and be able to recover it with the Leech Seed and been at a decent amount of HP to where he probably would have been able to take a -1 Flare Blitz after the initial Dragon Claw, which he likely would have done on the Incineroar. But ultimately the game didn't really go Patty's way. He got pretty lucky in dodging a couple Fire Blasts, 2 Fire Blasts missed, and I think he said that the Tyranitar was max special attack in that game, and I'm not sure if it was. I couldn't really tell, but based on the damage calcs that Patty did run, he said that it was max special attack and that would have killed the Ferrothorn in 1 hit. So he got pretty lucky in that aspect, and Tup kind of overanalyzed against the Alakazam with his Dugtrio, and it really cost him. If he wasn't so aggressive with his Dugtrio and Double Switch, then I feel like he had a very good chance of winning the game. But ultimately the Alakazam put in too much work near the end of the game, and Patty ultimately did win the game, and I gotta give him props for that. He is 2-1. He has good wins against its Gator. His 1 loss against Cybertron was a very close loss, and he knew exactly what he did wrong, so I can't fault him for that. If you can acknowledge why you lost, I feel like that's a very strong indication that you're a good coach in this league, and he's number 10. At number 9, I have Gator, and I really don't like the way that Gator built the team this week. And, well, I like the way that he built this team, but I don't like how, if he has to use a similar style every week, it's going to be very difficult for him to win games in this league because of how powerful some of these other teams are. For example, he built a very offensive team this week. Every single one of his Pokemon was a pretty offensive Pokemon. So basically, he used a Suicide Lead Heatran, and he got a 1-for-1 off. But he was able to get the 1-for-1 off with him having the first kill. So he was up 6-5 early. And if he kept doing 1-for-1 trades, because he has a Zeraora and Keldeo, 2 Pokemon that hit extremely hard, and 2 Pokemon that have very, very sneaky good bulk. Keldeo has, I think, 90 defenses, and Zera has similar defenses. They don't have many weaknesses. Keldeo has some key resistances in Steel and Rock, which is very crucial going against a Sakataka. And ultimately, he made some very calculated plays. For example, against the Sakataka, he had Surf and he had Secret Sword, and he made the calculation where there's the possibility of the Sakataka being a Chople Berry, so the Sacred Sword has a 0% chance to KO through the Chople, but the Surf always has a percentage chance to kill, because it's likely not going to be running Pasho Berry. But the percentage chance of Surf killing is lower than the percentage chance of him having a Chople Berry. So based on that calculation, he thought that Sacred Sword was the better play. Unfortunately, he had the Chople Berry instead of the Shuka Berry, which it was, if you consider it a 50-50, a 50-50 is higher than the chance of Surf KOing, I think. And it still didn't really matter that much because he also calculated the fact that he had an Auto Papa Berry, and with it activating, he had enough HP to be able to take a Shadow Ball from the Chandelier. And if it didn't go for Shadow Ball, if it went for Energy Ball, he was going to be able to take advantage of that later on in the game with one of his other Pokemon. So Gator played that game really, really well, and he is my number 9. So at number 8, I have the national champion, the NAIC winner, Wolff Glitch. So I have a number 8. It's hard for me to put him at number 8, but all the other coaches, I don't know. Maybe it's because he won the national championship and then he had to play Duncan. I don't know what it was. Maybe I don't know what I'm doing. I'm sorry. But he's number 8. I felt like he had a very good chance to win this game. The early game, it's not that he played it bad. It's that I feel like Duncan played it really, really well. With his Araquanid, he was able to get off crucial damage with his Araquanid and really set up the late game really well for Duncan. And near the very, very end of the game, there was a chance for Wolff to seal it, I think, where he went Verzion on a Tyranitar instead of going out into Extra, which was Scarfed with Sand Force. And because he went out into his Verzion, the Jirachi was able to set up. If he had went out into his Extra, which he didn't have any ground resist or immunities at that point, and it was Sand Force, I felt like he was able to just seal the game at that point, even with Intimidate from the Hitmontop. But obviously, he also forced 50-50s, because if he thought that if Duncan feared him going for Sword Stance with the Excadrill, there was a chance that he just stayed in with the T-Tar, and he didn't get the Intimidate off. He didn't get the Intimidate off initially, so he could have stayed in or sacked another one of his Pokemon. So there was also some mind games in that aspect. And the other thing is that I don't really know how this game would have went had Wolff actually hit the Stone Edge on the Vigavolt with his Virizion initially. So this was pretty difficult to rate. I can see arguments of why Wolff should be even in the top 5 still because of that Stone Edge miss, but I feel like the extra, I don't know if you can really call it a misplay because I don't really know how much I don't know what type of extra it was because I didn't see a team builder from Wolff, so I don't know if it was Adamant or Jolly Scarfed. If it was Adamant Scarf, there was like a 30% chance to kill Jirachi, I think, after Intimidate from the Hitmontop with Sand Force. I don't know if I'm remembering that calc properly, and I think there was like a 3% chance if it was Jolly after the Intimidate based on the spread that Duncan had. And he also obviously lived the Water Pulse, but there was the 60% chance confusion that you have to deal with as well, and maybe crits too as well. So Wolff at number 8, Under the Radar at number 7. So Under the Radar, I believe, has gone. The next 3 teams that I have in my top 10, 7 through 5, they all are undefeated, but their opponents have yet to win a game. So I decided to rate them based on how well they've played against these opponents that have yet to win a game. So Under the Radar, he played this game really well. He used his defensive Pokemon to really set up his offense. He had Melodic he really didn't actually use his defensive Pokemon that much, except for Melodic to be able to pivot around into his Darmanitan. And Darmanitan was basically the MVP in this match. He was very confident in Darmanitan being able to do so much damage, and he got rewarded for it because Darmanitan just 2-hit KO'd everything. Johto over predicted a couple times, I think he set up Stealth Rock on a Darmanitan and got 2-hit KO'd by Flare Blitz with the Infernape, and then the Haxorus, I believe, also got 2-hit KO'd, and it was just domination with the Darmanitan, and he was able to win the game as a result of that. And I have a number 7. It's hard, like I said, to rate these coaches because they have gone against teams that have yet to get a win, but he's number 7. At number 6, I have Leo. And Leo, I don't really know if he was going to win this game this week. It's hard to tell based on the hacks that happened in this week. He missed high jump kick against the Aerodactyl and he lost his low punny, but the Mienshao that he was up against was Life Orb Regenerator. So Life Orb makes it really strong, and Regenerator makes it pretty... It's hard to KO that Pokemon. The best defense is a good offense, and that Mienshao had incredible offense. Swords Dance knockoff, high jump kick, baton pass was very, very, very threatening to Leo's team. I don't think he played around it very well in the early game, but at the same time, I don't know if the inevitable Reuniclus set that he had Calm Mind, Psychium Z, Recover Trick Room. I don't know if that was going to be inevitable and win him the game. I like the Muck set with the block to be able to trap the Tapu Fini. I don't know if Tapu Fini was going to be the ideal result, the ideal Pokemon that you wanted to trap, because Tapu Fini kind of loses to Muck. But he was able to trap it, and because he did trap it, it prevented him from going for a potential taunt or calm mindset with the Tapu Fini against preventing his own Reuniclus from being able to win the game. So Leo's number 6. I have Envy at number 5. Envy and Leo, I think, have played one opponent that is the same, maybe 2. I don't know if Leo has played Tup yet. But Envy, the difference between Leo and Envy is that Envy has been dominating his opponents. His opponents haven't had the strongest record so far. They're struggling, but Envy has been dominating them. But this week in particular, I can't really say that he played too well, because he used standard sets, and he played the standard sets the way that you should play the standard sets. So I believe like anyone could have won this game 6-0. He brought, obviously I can't really say that because he made the good prep of bringing Assault Vest Reuniclus. Reuniclus is on my mind now. He brought Assault Vest Azumarill, which was a very good bring, and he brought Scarf Victini. I don't know how good Scarf Victini would have been against a more normal team, but against this particular team, it was just very good. It was able to pick off Pokemon left and right, and then for some reason Nate decided to set up Trick Room against the one Pokemon, against the one switch in to Delphox that benefits from Trick Room, and the Pokemon, like, Nate also had a Chestnut which outsped the Azumarill which undersped, I don't know how to say it, but under Trick Room, the Chestnut got outsped by the Azu, and Envy had speed EVs on his Azumarill. So I don't understand how the Chestnut would have gotten outsped in Trick Room when you have a Trick Room team. I feel like if you're bringing a Trick Room team and you're running Curse on your Chestnut, then you should be running 0 speed EVs and 0 speed IVs on your Chestnut. And I really did not understand the makeup of his team. If you brought just strong Pokemon against Ditto, you don't want to set up against it. You just want to bring strong attacks. And I felt like Nate had a very good matchup. He had spikes on Ferrothorn. I can't even say the right Pokemon. He had spikes on Chestnut and spikes on Cloyster, and with spikes up and Delphox. Delphox does so much damage to his team if it was Specs or Scarfed or something like that. And because Azumarill has no recovery, then he was going to be able to take advantage of that really, really well. As well as the fact that if you throw in the fact that you have Steelix and Chestnut as potential defensive pivots to be able to take on the Azumarill, which is pretty much his only switch into Delphox. Victini is a very poor switch in because not only does Delphox outspeed it, Victini can't really do too much damage back to it. Delphox wins that matchup, especially if Victini has to switch into it. So, with Steelix and Chestnut being pivoted to the Azumarill to take on Play Rough and Liquidation respectively, I felt like he had a very good matchup, and he decided to bring a very, very niche team that was not going to be able to win the match no matter how well you played the game. No matter what Envy did, there was no way that you were going to win that game because it took way too many turns of setup to be able to even do anything remotely good. And if one Pokemon went down, your entire strategy was gone. And I don't understand the swallow set. I don't understand any of the things that Nate was trying to do, and I apologize if this sounds cruel, but the matchup that Nate had, I felt like was pretty good, and he decided to get way too creative, and it really cost him an opportunity to get a underdog win in this week. But I can't take away from Envy. He brought good sets against what Nate brought. AV Azumarill was very, very good against what Nate brought, and he like the Victini just got kills left and right. There was really nothing that Nate could do against the Victini if it was because it was Scarf. But if he had to use the Victini defensively, it was against the Delphox, it wasn't going to be able to do much in that game. But number 4, Envy was number 5. Number 4, I have Duncan. So Duncan played the early game against Wolff really, really well, and the Vikavolt set was really creative. I like the Iron Defense set. I definitely was not expecting Wolff to have the Z Stone Edge, but it makes sense. Wolff doesn't like missing, and Stone Edge could miss, and he had some Pokemon that are vulnerable to the Rock move from the Virizion, and Virizion's coverage, like Stone Edge, works really well with Virizion's stab coverage of Grass and Fighting. The Jirachi set was incredible as well. It's a very common set in Black and White. Calm Mind, Water Pulse, Thunder, and then the last move was Substitute, Flash Cannon, Wish. It could be whatever you want. Psychic. And I really like the fact that he brought that set. It does very well against Wolf's team, has very good coverage. He didn't bring the Gigalith, which the Jirachi set doesn't really do too well against, because if he brings it in after he rain dances, it doesn't do too well, because Gigalith just doesn't take that much damage from it. And after the rain dance, if he is able to stop the rain dance, the extra is going to be able to outspeed in the sand. So if Duncan goes for a preemptive rain dance, it's not going to be able to sweep. But obviously Wolff didn't bring Gigalith, and I like the way that Duncan was able to set it up. He utilized the Intimidate from the Hitmontop to be able to set up the Jirachi to be able to seal the game. It's really unfortunate that Jirachi is just so weak that it wasn't able to kill any of his Pokemon. Water Pulse didn't kill the Excadrill, Thunder didn't kill the Mandibuzz, but there were rolls anyway. So Duncan at number 4. I really like the way he played, and he has, if you look at his schedule so far, it's got to be the most difficult so far. He played against A-Drive, he played against Wolff, 2 of the coaches that I've had in my top 3 for the first 2 weeks, and very tough schedule. Number 3, I have Luke. Now Luke really impressed me this week with the prep that he had. The Scizor, just the balance of the team that he brought against Cybertron was just, I really like the way that he had good pivots, good offensive attackers, and he just had a game plan in his head and he stuck to it. The Metronome, Primarina, gosh, I cannot get these Pokemon right today. The Metronome on the Primarina was a cool tech, and I really, really like it. Not only does it get you the kill and the Slowbro, but it deals so much damage to the next Pokemon that comes in, and I really like that. The Scizor to be able to take on the Kartana, the Scizor to be able to take on the Mamoswine. Like, he played this game really, really well, and I just like the prep that he had. There wasn't much hacks in the game. It was just a very clean win for Game Boy Luke. That, I don't know, he really impressed me with this game, and he really deserves this top 3 slot. In week 2, it was hard for me to really put him in the upper echelon of these players, but after this week, he's easily in my top 3. And at number 2, I have Joey Pokegame, and I decided to put him at number 2 because he went up against Magnitude this week, and I'm looking at Magnitude's team right now, and I don't really see a way that he was going to be able to win the game. The Belly Drum Clefable was a cute set, but I don't really believe that he was going to that Joey was going to allow him to have 3 turns of setup. Let's assume that screens are 1 turn of setup, even though they should take 2. Then you have to go to Clefable, that's another turn. You have to Belly Drum with Clefable, and then you have to Drain Punch. Drain Punch is essential because without Drain Punch, you don't have enough HP after the Belly Drum to be able to do anything. So I don't really believe Joey's going to give him that many turns to be able to set up his Clefable to be able to win the game. The Thunders would have been cool to be able to set up with, maybe even the Politoed with Belly Drum. I'm not too sure if Belly Drum Politoed would have been able to have a setup move to kill Toxapex, but I think it does get Bulldoze. I'm not 100% sure. So ultimately in this game, Joey utilized his Kabutops really well. It got kills versus Heatmore, SD versus Parastrap Toad, and he was able to Aqua Jet the Azov. So there was a lot of just Kabutop just destroying everything on his team. So I don't know. I had to put him at number 2 just because Magnitude didn't really do anything to prevent Joey from winning the game. There wasn't really much of a fight. Magnitude just bought. It's similar to Mewtwo Fanate where they try to bring super creative sets, and ultimately only one worked out with the Toxapex, where it trapped the Toxapex, which would have been cool for. I don't even know if it's cool for Clefable, because Clefable just would kill the Toxapex with Zen Headbutt, so it really didn't serve a purpose. If you're gonna trap a Pokemon, if you're specifically bringing a Pokemon to trap another Pokemon, then if your main sweeper can already kill it, I don't really understand the point of having that trap Pokemon. Like, you could have used that slot for something else, or made Clefable Cosmic Power over Zen Headbutt to be able to set up a little bit easier. Anyways, I'm ranting because he would have been able to free up a slot for an item and Cosmic Power if he got rid of Zen Headbutt. So that's number 2. And number 1, I have A-Drive. A-Drive played against K-Crit this week, and K-Crit has been struggling in the first 2 weeks, but in this week she played really well. All the plays that she made in this week, I was genuinely surprised that she played. She's only been battling for, I don't know, she doesn't look like she's been battling for too long, but she made a lot of good plays against A-Drive. She played with a lot of foresight, and it really put A-Drive on his toes, and honestly, it was a very close game. Honestly, I was watching it from A-Drive's perspective, and I felt like the Mimikyu at any point was always going to be a win con, even when he had the Skarmory, even when he had, I think the Kyurem was Choice Scarf. So I felt like if he was able to set up Stealth Rock somehow and be able to chip down the Kyurem somehow, the Mimikyu had a chance to win, because maybe he was able to set up on the Kyurem or something like that. But A-Drive just had steal coverage on too many of his Pokemon to be able to lose the Mimikyu. But ultimately, the Mimikyu was the one saving grace for K-Cray, and I don't know. I felt like she played that game really well. It's just A-Drive was one step above her. In the beginning, it was very even. So I don't know. A-Drive has had a tough schedule so far, and he's able to. And like, he's had a tough schedule, and he's also bringing out the best of his opponents, which just, I feel like that's one of the reasons why you gotta have him at number 1, because Magnitude brought some creative sets this week, and I feel like that really didn't challenge Joey. But K-Cray, not only did she bring very good, consistent Pokemon, but she played really well in the game, so that's why I have A-Drive as number 1. It's gonna be difficult, like I said, to really rate these going. A lot of these teams that have yet to win so far are still going to be playing against strong coaches, and it's really not a good indicator of how strong the coach is that's like 3-0 so far if they're going against teams that are winless. So it's gonna be difficult to see. Like Leo, his first real test against a team that has a win is Gator, and that goes the same with Envy. Like Gator has to play both Envy and Leo in back-to-back weeks, which is going to be very interesting to see how the power rankings work in those couple weeks, because Gator has 2 very strong opponents, and Envy and Leo have 2 very strong opponents, and those are going to be their first 2 tests to see how strong their team and play actually are. So that's it for the power rankings. Hope you guys enjoyed. Leave a like. I'll be back for next week for week 4 on time. Alright, thanks. Peace.